We'll read about it. Out of the Reference Guide to Regulatory Compliance, I'm on page 63, Credit Card Practices. In 2004, in response to complaints about the practices of credit card companies, the OCC issued a guidance called Credit Card Practices, outlining some marketing and operational best practices. This guidance focused on marketing practices, including the offering of interest rates and the repricing of established accounts. On May 22, 2009, the Credit Card Accountability, Responsibility, and Disclosure Act of 2009, the Credit Card Act, was signed into law. The Credit Card Act primarily amends the Truth in Lending Act and establishes a number of new substantive and disclosure requirements to establish fair and transparent practices pertaining to open-end consumer credit plans. Refer to the Truth in Lending section for details on these requirements that also affect credit card practices. OCC issued an advisory on credit card practices in 2004, which covered marketing and account management practices that may be unfair or deceptive and expose the bank to compliance and reputational risk. The practices addressed in the guidance involved up-to marketing, which involves promotions with credit limits up to certain amounts. If the limits are illusory and most customers do not receive the stated limit, this practice can be deceptive. National banks should not target consumers with poor credit histories for solicitations with up to limits that are greater than the consumer would receive. Providing most applications with a default credit line at the lowest end that is significantly lower than the advertised line without disclosing the default line in the promotional materials, and advertising the possible uses of the card when the initial available credit line is likely to be so limited that the advertisement uses are illusory. These are all practices that should not be performed in marketing promotions for national banks. The banks should allow consumers to cancel the cards at little or no cost when they learn the actual credit limit granted. Promotional rate marketing is another practice addressed in the guidance. It involves promotions with lower rates to attract consumers and induce new and existing consumers to transfer balances from other credit cards. Usually the APR is effective for a short time period. The promotional rate may be limited as to its benefit. For example, it may only apply to transferred balances. The benefits of such programs may be offset by the imposition of fees. When offering these programs, national banks should fully disclose the promotional materials, any material limitation on the applicability of the promotional rate, such as the time period, any circumstances that could shorten the period, and categories of balances to which it applies, and the order in which payments will be applied. To avoid representations that create the impression that material limitations do not exist. Disclose fully the promotional materials and credit agreements, any fees that may apply in connection with the promotional terms is recommended. Repricing of accounts and other changes in credit terms is a practice referred to in the guidance, and the practice of increasing a consumer's APR specifically to address credit risks that arise such as when a customer fails to make timely payments on accounts, including accounts with other creditors. Other practices include shortening the due date for the receipt of payment or raising the amount of fees or late payments exceeding the credit limit or obtaining a cash advance. National banks should fully disclose in promotional materials the circumstances under which the credit card agreement permits the bank to increase the consumer's APR other than due to variable rate, increase fees, or take other action to increase the cost of credit, such as, if applicable, the failure to make timely payments to another creditor. Fully disclosing in marketing materials and credit agreements as applicable the fact that the bank reserves the right to change the APR, fees, and other terms unilaterally is a recommendation by the regulators.